Well, friends, good morning. It is a very peaceful time here in our worship sanctuary, our worship center. Very easy to reflect on and to remember God's kindness to us on just the last Lord's Day morning. It's very peaceful in here, and I'm glad for that feeling because it doesn't immediately strike me as empty. It doesn't immediately strike me as discouraging. Where have all the people been? But it's not hard to start to think that way a little bit, is it? It's been a long time since we've gathered what was our norm here, hasn't it? Here, as we have the music videos played, the worship music videos, and we ask one another to think hard about what we're normally singing, at least what we're singing in our minds as we join in with others who are worshiping in song, even though we're not worshiping in song directly. But I start to hear around the church every once in a while those strong hums behind your masks that become almost little singings. And when I'm enjoying, the Lord and worship that way, I think to myself, Lord, it's been a while, and it's getting a little bit old for some of us. We're getting a little bit tired of it. And that's not a reason not to continue to observe the safety protocols here. It is a reason to ask you for patience, ask the Lord when I'm talking to the Lord, and asking you, Lord, for patience, helping us to persevere and to hang in there. We said before, you don't need patience until you're at the end of your, I can't take it anymore, I'm tired of this, I've had enough of it. Well, you didn't exercise patience up to that point. That's the point at which you begin to exercise patience. And so, we're here on Sunday mornings, and, I can't wait to sing again. But even that phraseology, we have to wait. God is working all things according to the determinate counsel of his will. And so far, this virus is still serious enough that we're going to have 2 services, 15 to 20 people tops per service. Sometimes 6 or 7. I mean, some of you who've been here and you've looked around and you're thinking, is it even worth it? And that question that comes to my mind and has come to some of your minds, that's the kind of thing that in this room makes me discouraged. That there's still enough unsanctified sinfulness in me that I say, well, I don't know if getting together with 6 or 7 people are worth it. It's a little discouraging that we in the church are starting to say, well, I'm not sure if it's a worthwhile endeavor because we have such small numbers some days. And the interesting thing in the Lord's kindness is that when we have said things like that, almost as an automatic response, we end up having more people the next Sunday or more people in a particular service. And, God doesn't owe us that, but it ought to just strike us again just how incredibly kind the Lord chooses to be towards us. In Psalm 89 was the Bible reading this morning. And, there's just aspects of this psalm that show that though God brings difficulty, and even sometimes difficulty for the sake of discipline, into the lives of his people, it's never the last word. It's just never the last word. In Psalm 89, he says, verse 20, I have found David my servant. With my holy oil I have anointed him, so that my hand shall be established with him. My arm also will strengthen him. The enemy shall not outwit him. The wicked shall not humble him. I will crush his foes before him. I will strike down those who hate him. My faithfulness and my steadfast love shall be with him, and in my name shall his horn be exalted. David is telling us that in verse 20 to 24 of Psalm 89. And listen, even that's the protection of God and God's people. The root of, or the fruit of David's line, that line of the Messiah that we are connected to by faith. And so he's speaking about us as God's people, how he'll never take his steadfast love. But interesting, when he talks about protecting his people, God's people, from their enemies, he also says down in verse 30, if his children forsake my law and do not walk according to my rules, if they violate my statutes and they do not keep my commandments. That's real. That's the lack of patience that you and I have been feeling. That's the pressing back against God's authority through the civil governments and say, I don't think we need to, I don't think we should have to, I don't believe, I don't agree with. And before you know it, the church is saying, just like the world, I'm only going to obey the laws of the land that I agree with. That's why everybody's speeding on the 401, because it's not like they don't understand the law. It's just, I don't agree that I should have to go this speed limit, so I'm just going to give her. I'm just going to obey the law as I understand it. And brothers and sisters, when Christians do that and take on this foolish attitude of, I'll obey when I understand, instead of saying, I'll obey because I understand God has told me to obey, then he'll come and it says, if they violate my statutes, don't keep my commandments, verse 32 says, then I'll punish their transgression with the rod and their iniquity with stripes. He says there's an expectation not just of difficulty generally, but there's often difficulty that's specifically a form of discipline. Because I'm unwilling to continue to exercise the steadfastness in sticking close to the Lord and doing what he's telling me and persevering and hanging in there and just trusting him in the midst of those kind of things. It's a lack of an act of faith. It's a crisis of faith at that point, brothers. My brothers and sisters, I head down to you, let us not find ourselves as those who just believe, like we did before we came to Christ, that we know the best way to live our lives. Because here's the amazing thing. Even when we do that, he says, I'll punish their transgression, their iniquity. But verse 33 says, but I will not remove from him, the people of God, people of David, I will not remove from him my steadfast love or be false to my faithfulness. Isn't that great? God will not be false to his faithfulness. We do that. We're false to our commitment in faith to do as he's asked us. But he'll not be false to his faithfulness. I will not violate my covenant or alter the word that went forth from my lips. Once for all, I have spoken by my holiness. I will not lie to David. His offspring shall endure forever. His throne shall be as long as the sun before me. Like the moon, it shall be established forever, a faithful witness to the skies. God has not let you go. He will not let you go. He will not and has not abandoned us in our inconveniences with this pandemic. And when we're honest, some of the things that are really irking us are not all of the people who are suffering greatly from the effects of this virus, not the people who find their jobs just ripped to shreds because the economy is so different now. It's not the people who can't see their family members as they're dying in long-term care and hospice units. It's not those things that really irk us. It's, I don't want to wear that mask. I should be able to sing. I don't want to stand apart from my family. I don't want to fail to, enjoy that travel, that trip that I normally take. It's those kind of preference things. And God just continues to wean me off my idols. And I'm not suggesting that here worshiping with the God's people is an idol. But there can be aspects of it that I just enjoy more than I enjoy honoring God. I enjoy honoring God, but boy, I like these certain things. And I just want to help us all. And maybe it's just a slight word of warning to me in our Bible reading this morning. Just look, don't ask God to take sin lightly. And at the same time, don't ever think that he does. And don't ever think that he takes his word to care for us lightly, or that we have any reason to expect that he won't continue to do that. I hope Tuesday is a wonderful day in the Lord for you today, friends. It's good to connect with you again. See you tomorrow night, Facebook Live at 7 o'clock. Cheers.